which is North St. Paul, Oakdale, Maplewood. And I turned 50 today. So that's me. I call in Katie.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm new to the group, but I'm excited to be here. I'm the parent educator in Jordan, Minnesota. And if you're not familiar with Jordan, it's kind of a small town on the way to Mankato, about 10 minutes south of Shakopee. Wonderful little small town, great schools. I have kind of a unique situation. I actually got my parent ed license and my master's in family ed from the University of Minnesota back in, I think it was like 2000. And so I was the parent educator here from 99 to 06. And then I left for a few years to work from home and ended up coming back here about 4 years later as the administrative assistant. So I did that for a few years. And then this is my second year back again as the parent educator. So I'm kind of an old, new parent educator. So, and I'm the only one here. So I am, a little bit on my own. That's why I love doing stuff like this. And I guess just a couple of quick things I'm curious about today are, what are some free guest speakers you've had for your program? And then what do you have in place for kind of a backup, like when the parent educator isn't here, instead of just having them all just do a big parent-child time, do you have them separate still? And maybe what do you do? But if we don't get to that, it's okay. I'm just happy to be here and kind of listen and see everybody. So. Oh, and I have to call on somebody. Let's see. Oh, how about, is it Ellen with the little hat?
That's me. I'm almost home. I live only 8 minutes away from school. I teach in Northfield. I'm the parent educator there. This is my 11th year doing parent ed. I'll be hopping onto my computer in a minute, but then I have to get off again because I have to take a car to get an oil change. So I'll be in and out. And I don't have any questions today. So, and I picked Nancy. I think I invited Nancy here. Yeah, so happy you came today.
Indeed you did, Ellen. My name's Nancy Trahey, and I'm a parent educator for Albany School District, just north and west of St. Cloud, if you're not familiar with where that is. And I actually retired in school readiness in June and proposed to the district, because I'm their licensed parent educator, that I continue in parent ed with ECFE, and it's heavenly. I'm loving it to focus back on that again. I started working here in Minnesota for Albany School District in 2004. And previously worked as a parent educator in Wisconsin for the Children's Trust Fund of Wisconsin for about a decade in West Bend, Wisconsin. And we were very jealous of what Minnesota had here in terms of ECFE being so readily available around the state. We were working hard. I think we started with 13 counties and expanded to close to 20 before I moved away from Wisconsin. Anyway, I know, long story short, I'm here because I've been a part of the, so I've been working in the state a long time. I know I met Susan at a Menafee conference once a long time ago. I don't know if I've met any of the rest of you. I am a part of the Facebook group and had a question for the group because we're moving in new space about what, just to hear what everybody considered their must-haves as we're remodeling. And part of that conversation, Facebook conversation, Ellen referred to this group. And I said, what? How have I not heard about this? Tell me more. And so, yes, she did indeed invite me, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm so sorry I missed that introduction because I was trying to get on to stuff at the beginning. Susan, maybe each time you do something like that so I can hear next time about how this group started and its goal. But it sounds like, from what Ellen said, it's kind of linking each other together right now, right? Okay, perfect. And I call on Jennifer Wenner.
I'm one of the parent educators in the Minnetonka district. This is my 4th year there. And I in the past I've taught on Fridays and so haven't been able to make this this year I was like, yay. And there's just always meetings scheduled at noon on Fridays. So I'm really, it's new year, hoping to join the group more often because I miss you guys. No particular questions this time, just glad to be here and to reconnect and catch up on what everybody else is thinking. I call in Nikki.
I'm Nikki Murphy, and excuse me, I'm a home visitor and parent and family educator in Robbinsdale area schools. And I just over break renewed my license again, so that was fun. My last license had my master's on it, so the hours were crazy. I have been licensed though since 2002, and I think to bring this up again, and it does not need to be today, but anytime. I'm so curious to know and interested to learn about everybody's, however you call it in your district, your professional growth plan, or some of the things that you have chosen to focus on, and perhaps what you gained and what you learned from what you selected.
And Nikki, who do you pick?
I pick Jenny.
Hi, everybody. I am the parent educator, which I started 2 weeks ago in St. Paul schools. I'm on the west side, or also Belvedere it's called. So I've been in ECFE for 1 year, and I have learned so much from all of you. So I'm just really here. I don't have any specific questions. This was last week was a very weird week to start as a parent, or in a new school, because I had 2 snow days. So this was my first week really where I had the full class, and I teach 3 Spanish language classes as well. I'm not fluent, so I have a translator. So it's all new, and I'm teaching so many more classes than I taught in Roseville last fall, or I was in Hastings the spring before that. So St. Paul has lots of parent educators, but none of them are in my building. So super excited that most Fridays I hope to be able to get here if we don't have staff meetings. And let's see, Yuji, I'll call on you.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, happy New Year, everyone. I missed the meeting last week. I'm sorry. I planned to come, and then the other meeting just lasted 2 hours, other than 1 hour planned. So it's interesting. Becca mentioned this is your first year, and this is my 3rd year of teaching parent education. Gosh, and actually, Jenny, I worked part-time for St. Paul when I went to school in St. Paul there, St. Paul ECFE. So, right, I'm licensed in Minnesota, and right now I'm living in Montana. I'm developing and teaching a virtual program here. And actually, I would say, so there are people joining this class from other states, not only Montana. So yes, this is what I'm doing. And today, if there is a chance, I would like to hear how do you teach the topic of parenting siblings. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I call Abby.
It's okay, Yuji. I'm Abby. I'm walking right now, so I'm out of breath. But this is my 2nd year. I teach parent ed in Wilmer. And I also love coming to the group because I'm fairly new. So just to hear from everybody is awesome. And let's see, Greta.
Hi, I'm Greta Nelson, and I'm in Cambridge Isani Public Schools, and I do parent ed. Was there a question specifically? No. Okay.
Only if you have something that you'd like to talk about today or ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything specific today, so we are going next week into our last week for the semester, and then we'll start up in January 30th. So I'm kind of at the end and like, yes, evals are ready to go out, and then we're going to start fresh. And I love that time of year. So that's all I can say at the moment. Who has not introduced themselves yet? Show of hands.
I think,
Is everybody done?
I think so.
Oh, perfect. I'll swing it back to Susan.
All right. I have to tell you how wonderful it is to see you all. It just makes my week. I don't know if any of you know Dave Pinto. Dave is he is actually the congressperson who represents my district, but he is also an incredible champion of early childhood in our state legislature. And you may have heard his name through Menafee policy updates. Anyway, I was at Costco, as you do, and I saw this guy, and it was like, who's this? Like, do I know this guy? He looks really familiar. Oh, it's Dave Pinto. So I walked up to him to thank him for his efforts on behalf of early childhood, and we got to talking. And he has there's, I guess, sort of a policy advisory group that he works with called Elders for Infants. And there's several people whose names were fairly familiar to me. Anyway, so I may be involved with that, like just as a, retired person, but he sort of refers to it as a bit of like a superhero group. And he said, I don't think we have a superhero for ECFE. So anyway, so I thought, well, that'd be good. Anyway, so that's a nice thing. Yes, it's absolutely lovely to see you all. So I have a number of fabulous questions here, and I have put them also in the chat. And unless there's strong preference, you can mostly, you all can see them. I know a few of you joined after and anyway, I'll just start from the top. Is that okay? And then we'll just kind of run through them. So the first question was about what are your options for free speakers? And because this is a statewide group, or actually it's a national group, since Yuji is joining us, we would consider to like jurisdiction that people will go. But so what are your, what kind of ideas do you have on free speakers for Katie and for the group?
Jennifer, you're muted. It doesn't say you're muted, but you're muted.
I can go quick. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I always reach out to like people in my school district, like if there's an OT or a PT or a speech language pathologist that works with our early childhood kiddos, I'll see if they have a chunk of time available. And the parents really have loved like hearing from a speech pathologist or something like that. And then I've just reached out to other people in my community. Like there's a therapist that works with postpartum depression, and she's coming to talk to, and a lot of people are just willing to do it for free if you ask them. I don't know if other people have had that, but I've been really lucky that no one's asked me for money yet.
Yep, I very much like that idea of using your district resources, and we're in a real small community. So sometimes parents in my class, we had a speech pathologist in class, for example, and of course we took some time to get to know each other. So I knew something about her and how she might be as a speaker, and she was awesome. And as a participant in the class, she was comfortable. People were comfortable asking her questions. So sometimes it works out that you've got somebody in class that can be a good resource.
That's a really good point. Making sure that they'll be a good speaker, because once I had a nutritionist come, I used to live in a community with a Hy-Vee, and I don't know if all Hy-Vees have nutritionists, but she came and she was a nightmare. I mean, it was years ago. It was when I was trying to do like a parent only, it was just bad. And she was so bubbly and fun. And I was like, oh, she'd be great. She was awful. So I think it's really important, just because they're an expert doesn't mean they'll be good in front of the classroom. Or in front of parents. So that, and sometimes like you're like there the whole time, you're like, okay, can we just take a break? Does anybody have any questions? So.
So Ellen, was I invited like kind of a sex educator from the county health public health department, and I didn't know how well he is. He's kind of pretty young, so I went through the whole session like with him to make sure everything will be good. So it came out very good. Everyone liked it. So yes, I think that it needs to be very careful to, I mean, gosh, we do not know. We want to know. We want to know beforehand. And yeah, so that is we had that experience. And also I think extension, each state has extension, and extension has many specialists they would allow to give a free presentation workshops.
Yeah, I'll just toss in as a part of, and I've worked in county health department. I've worked for many, many years in different states at the county and the state level in cooperative extension. And I completely back that up because it's part of the job. I mean, it's kind of like if you're paid to do outreach in your community, it's within your jurisdiction. I know when I was with the county health department, I would almost, when I saw the county line like that, welcome to the other county, I almost had a sigh of relief, which was like, I'm off the clock. So yeah, I completely agree with Yuji that, a lot of the sort of county city employees, and if they have to charge, I mean, they'll tell you because that's a decision made by somebody else. So yeah.
Someone from Healthy Legacy Coalition, like Clean Water Action, Healthy Legacy Coalition, come and speak for a number of years. We had the same person who came to so many groups here in Robbinsdale area schools. And the focus really was on reducing chemical exposures for their kids. And it's amazing how many categories of things they cover within an hour. So they're talking about perhaps products that we use on their skin, to safety in terms of using plastic versus glass, just tons of safety precautions. They talk about off-gassing and chemicals and how to deal with that. And so for groups that usually we've done it around April, sometime around Earth Day, but we've asked groups, especially groups that have had interest or that's come up during the year, if they want to have a speaker from there, and they have also done it at no charge.
Well, lots of great ideas, and we've been sort of noting them over in chat as well. So Katie, is this helpful?
Is my mic working now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. I'll add one more. We have the organization My Health in the kind of western suburbs. It's especially provides resources for young women, health resources, and they've come to talk to our parents about parents as first sexuality educators, and that was really successful. And it's kind of taken on a topic that can be that both the parents and the parent educators may or may not feel like super grounded and comfortable in. And so they did a great job of and a lot of the parents of toddlers were like, what, why are we talking about this now? And then by the end, they're like, oh yeah, it's time to start thinking about that as a topic. So that was a really popular guest as well.
Jennifer, can you repeat I'm sorry, can you repeat who that was again?
The clinic is called My Health. And they didn't charge, kind of this outreach as part of their somebody's job, which was great.
Great. Thank you all so much. Those are great ideas.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip over to, we'll come back to the backup plan, but I'm going to go to Nikki's question about the professional growth plan. Partly because she asked that last year, and we're going to start with that in the new year. And then we had a wonderful discussion last week, and now Nikki's here. So Nikki, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can restate your question, although it's a pretty straightforward question, I think, and a great one. I appreciated your bringing it up last year, because that's sometimes a thinker, you know, that's like, I sort of smile when Katie asked about the goals for this group, and I thought, oh my God, I never thought about goals. I have to put my evaluation development hat on. So anyway, but yeah, so Nikki, let me turn it over to you, and you can restate your question.
Just I know that each district probably calls it something different. Here in Robbinsdale area schools, we're part of QComp, and and every district and every educator, right, has to work within teacher development and evaluation, which is legislatively required. And so that's how in Robbinsdale area schools, they work that into our practices through QComp. Ellen, I'm reading what you said. It is mandated across the states that you have teacher development and evaluation. So that's a law. Whether they are practicing it to the letter of the law, I can't say. But anyways, teacher development and evaluation does require observations. And here in Robbinsdale area schools, they also include what's called our PGP, or professional growth plan. So each of those 3 observations, we are asked about how we're doing on that professional growth plan. I'm trying to read the chats too. Ellen's saying I get observed once every 3 years, but that's it. Okay. Yeah, we're required 3 observations in a year. Every 3rd year we're high cycle. So that would include observation by our administration. But other than that, if we're not high cycle, then all of them are coming from our peer coaches, our QComp coaches. And that's their role. That you can apply to be a teacher on special assignment to be a QComp coach. And so that is, I'm just curious to know, I know there's lots of ways that different districts are getting their heads around that. But if you do have a professional growth plan, then every year you probably would have focused on something different and brought something really intentional into your practice. This year, I wrote my professional growth plan actually around the book, What Happened to You, Bruce Perry and Oprah's book on what happened to you, because I feel like trauma is such a pervasive thing in all of our communities that families are experiencing. And I have never done like a blanket payee session just on trauma. Like, I don't know if my families are familiar with ACEs, and the benefit of navigating some of that would be all of those areas that we can actually intentionally foster resiliency and what we can be doing to move forward from situations. And as we help our kids to navigate things that perhaps we never even could have even ever imagined that they were going to experience, and then they do. So that's what I'm working on this school year. But I'm just curious but I can see too from the chat that it's bringing up a lot of questions about the actual teacher development and evaluation, or how people are probably doing that in a district.
I can share a little because it's a concern I have, and I have a lot of questions as well. We have all of that, and I've had a change in who's in administration, and there's been a lot of things in flux. But we follow the 5D plus rubric, which is used for everyone on the teacher contract. And I actually had a conversation in a meeting just yesterday about not wanting to as a parent educator. It's not that the rubric can't work for a parent educator. It's that I'm forcing it to work. So it's not ideal at all. And my boss basically was just like, ask other people, what do other districts use? Because we have to have something. It has to be like official, a thing, like, and 5D plus is what all the teachers use. And since I'm on the teacher's contract, I need to have something, but it's possible that we could use a different rubric of sorts for like, what are your goals and are you meeting them and how do you measure that? I feel like the rubric is very much focused on child learners, even through high school, but I think it's I don't think it honors at all adult learners, voluntary adult learners. I don't feel like it respects that. I think it's focusing too much, maybe plug your ears, Susan. It's focusing too much on evaluation and like assessment. I'm all for assessing a program. I'm not for assessing a parent in the way that this seems to demand. It's like, no, that's the opposite of how I feel. I am not going to judge, are you a good parent or not? How good are you? And did you memorize something? It's like, I'm not giving you homework. That's not the way I teach. So, and I feel like that's what the 5D plus rubric really kind of is geared towards. Someone who has to earn a credit, someone who has to master a skill and then graduate, like that kind of thing. And so I was curious if other people have a different, is there anything out there that exists for adult learners? And in our district, we have adult ed, but they're not on the teacher's contract. So like they don't have the same requirements.
Ours is the Charlotte Danielson rubric, and I actually think it's fantastic. There's 4 parts of it. 3 is the general observation, but they look at the environment and they look at the professionalism. And I think that it's very fitting for every educator, no matter where we are, each of the 4 domains. And it's not looking at maybe it will come up in your conversation with your QComp coach or your peer observer about the learning targets and whatnot. But the Charlotte Danielson rubric is really looking at you as a facilitator and how you may grow in your practice. So I like it.
That sounds like exactly what I need. So, I mean, this is my first district I've worked in. So I haven't been exposed to anything else. So I've never heard of the Charlotte Danielson rubric. So that's fantastic to at least have something I can bring to my boss as another possibility. Because I think she was open to if there's something official, it's just nobody has really questioned it or anything because it's just like, well, this is what all the teachers do. So they just plugged us in with them. And I'm like, no, what I do is really different.
Thanks for putting that in the chat, Ellen. She's got a link there to the Danielson teacher rubric. So our district has a QComp plan, and it was devised and approved by the state, but it was devised in our district. And I'm newly on not a full-time contract. I'm on a 14% contract and was really disappointed because I value professional development. When at the beginning of this year, when I was, going to a 14% contract after retiring from school readiness, they said, no, you're not going to do that, because it would mean then they had to add hours for me to attend and do the things that need to be done as a part of that. I was so sad. So meeting with this group and things like, when is that, on the 27th, Friday the 27th, those kinds of opportunities are really valuable to me. So thanks all of you for being my make do continuing ed. But ours, like Nikki's, is developed so that it talks about the teacher development, and yes, there are things where but you get to pick. There's so many things to pick from, so many choices, that when I was doing something for myself as a parent educator, because I tried to include some as a preschool teacher and some as a parent educator, I could pick the ones that I thought applied to my role as a licensed parent educator. And if I can find it, I'm happy to share it with you, Becca. I bet I could find your email online, and I don't know if it'll be helpful or not, but you sure can look at it.
Before I left my last district, they were really big on teacher growth and development, but it was very restricted in that it had to match our world's best workforce goal. And then we had to narrow it down into the building wide goal. And of course, with ECFE, it never fit. It was always like reading preparation for kindergarten. It was just never worked. So of course we had to tweak it and shift it. And this was separate from PLC. But one thing I did make, and I'll put it in the chat, was a form. I just found it the other day. It was something that I started working on when I left, and I didn't have to do it, but they wanted us to send a survey to our students, and it could ask whatever we wanted. We could create it ourselves. You know, how do you feel in the classroom? And then this is bare bones, you guys. So like, all you do, permission to open, hang on. It was bare bones. I never used it, but it may be something like that you could use as an option. And basically, where is it? Responses, hang on. I'm trying to find the form defaults here, sorry.
I think
Anyway.
there are 2 links now, right? There's the PDF that was the Danielson rubric.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
the second one, yeah, was the form.
here it is, I got it. Anyone with the link, there you go. You should have access now. And again, but basically it was like, ask whatever you want. And I was like, cool, because this actually fits ECFE, you know, but then I left and never sent it. So, but you could do something like that. And then you could really get brave and say, in what areas do you think, you know, and sometimes it would come out on a survey, like we do surveys with families every year. And sometimes it comes out like the year I got bashed for not having enough knowledge about autism from a parent. She didn't like that I didn't know. I was like, well, it's my 3rd year. And by the way, that requires a whole different degree. So sorry, I'm not your cup of tea.
So on that note, back to the idea of the PGP, like Ellen's bringing up, if that was something that Ellen had been interested to learn more about, that would have been, you know, a PGP that she could name for an entire year and perhaps read more about that, or read about anything, or embed a practice. I'm curious to know, are other people still, and do you have something that you're focused on over and across every single year that you've highlighted, that you've said, I have this goal and I will grow in this area this year?
Well, Nikki, is that your answer?
Yes, it is. It crickets, right? Everybody's familiar, well, in some fashion with QComp, but for us, we have to have something that we're working toward. And it's just fascinating what each educator brings to the table and to find out what they actually did each year. And when we all learn from each other, for example, one educator had created a system for how she was making sure she checked in with each family each week, and her system for keeping track of that. And it was interesting to see and her observations about what a difference it made over and across her year. But each time, you know, every year, I think we each learn significant things through our PGP, and, you know, whether we're left with new lessons or we're left with new practice, will embed in, you know, just throughout our practice forever. It's been really a positive thing for us. So just interesting that it's not something that everyone's required to do.
Well, I'm not adding mine because they're so specific to me and really wouldn't inspire anybody, you know? We changed technology so often there for a few years. My goals had to do with implementing the technology into my lesson plans because I had this wonderful stuff available to me, and I'm a different generation than the parents in my classes. And so I wanted to respond to that, to their needs about that. Was part of a goal, you know, but I used that for the 3-year cycle once. And then also leadership. So I mean, that wouldn't inspire anybody they were very specific to me. So I had them.
I had a mix of ones.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Jenny. I had a mix of ones kind of similar to what Nancy's saying, like things that were really specific to me, but also trying to fit the QComp one that was part of our like collaborative team goal, which was semi-dictated or maybe completely dictated by our district early learning goals, which were not come up. They weren't, I had no voice in deciding what that was. It was more, like I said, trying to fit this into a rubric of how can I make this goal that I did not choose fit into a personal growth plan and how I'm gonna approach that. Ours has to do with the fact that over the pandemic in our district, early learning math scores have plummeted. We've had several areas with measurable loss, but specifically in some what I consider language math skills, which is like understanding spatial words, prepositions, like next to, behind, on, right? Like, and in terms of math skills, preparing for spatial understanding and visualization and things like that, our preschoolers, no idea. They didn't have any of those words really. So we're kind of working as a team, and I was like, how am I going to work on early childhood math as a parent ed? But for the first time, and maybe that's embarrassing to admit as this is my 4th year, you know, I am going to be teaching a couple of lessons on how can you best support your child's early learning and what's your comfort level. We're doing a pre and post test of like, it's a really, really simple questionnaire, but like, how comfortable do you feel teaching your child math and stuff like that. And then we'll take another one with the exact same questions at the end and see if hopefully talking about it as a group and having me as their facilitator creates a little bit of change and increasing their confidence and realizing how much they're already doing and encouraging them to be purposeful with that. So like it's math oriented and it's really specific to our district. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Go ahead. I was just gonna, sorry, Greta, do you mind if I just do a quick? I was just gonna add, Nikki, that I think St. Paul uses a similar approach, but I haven't even met with my supervisor, so I think I'll be doing that same thing. And I was just gonna encourage you to, wouldn't it be awesome if you taught a NAFI workshop in how to develop, I mean, what you're talking about with learning from different parent educators across the district and how you set these goals and how you all grow together would be beautiful. I'd love to see that in a workshop. I'm happy. And then Becca, this summer I did, do you all remember last spring, there was a call out for parent educators to be involved with some math, teaching math to parent caregivers. And there's a website with a whole bunch of exercises, and I did all the modules and everything else. And I can't think of the name, and hopefully by the end of in the 10 minutes I have, I'm going to find it for you and put it there, because they have all these activities on helping families of young children heighten their language around math.
So I guess what I would say is, sorry, this was a horrible transition. To continue, if you have additional ideas for Nikki, or I mean, just thoughts about your own professional growth plans, you can put them in the chat. And then, or if you want to keep talking, do you want to keep talking about this? I mean, it's a good topic, and especially the sort of specificity, lack of, sort of global administrative stuff on this.
I think just one other last comment thought that comes to my mind is, like a lot of you, it kind of feels square peg, round hole. And, in Minnetonka, we have a list of like 12 kind of core, I can't remember what the verbiage they use around it. And we have to choose 2 or 3 every year. And, half of them have to do with like testing and assessment, which is super appropriate, as Becca was saying, for, K-12. And so I feel like I'm like, well, I guess I'll choose number 3 again and kind of make it work. But at the same time, I'm really kind of mindful of this balance between like, this just doesn't really quite fit for us and who we are, balanced with, and yet I am a licensed teacher in this district, and I don't want to give them any, thought that maybe I'm not quite like the K-12 teachers who are also licensed. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? So just want to make sure that I'm making sure we're presenting ourselves in our parent ed team as we are like fully one of the team. We're just a little different.
For us in Robbinsdale, that sounds like our PLCs, our professional learning communities, in which we are given also, I think what you're saying too, you're picking one of 12, but it does need to align to our school improvement plan and to our unified district vision in the district. But the professional growth plan is really like, Nancy was saying, like very unique to the individual educator. So it's anything under the sun that you commit to doing, and then they continue to check in with you each time to make sure that is showing that you're able to gain growth in that place that you've highlighted.
I was just starting to type in response to Jennifer's comment, it's very challenging, and yet it's very necessary to continually, and let's face it, this is your career. This is my career. It's going to be it's your career too, right? Of sort of that proving that like, we're just as good as you are, but you're kind of, but you're not, because our profession, our work, especially for you all as licensed parent educators, it's so specific to the state, whereas a licensed teacher is a licensed teacher. I mean, it's like national, right? And it's kind of, they get it, people get it. And so you just have this lifetime of in your districts to let people know, I'm a licensed teacher just like you are. And that's a burden, but at the same time, it's like necessary. So I feel the pain, and I'm glad that you have this group and others, because you're not alone, right? I mean, you all have to do that, but it's really important to do.
And I'm not in one of those districts, because our district has our early childhood team on the master contract. But I would imagine for teachers who are in districts where it's not respected, where they're viewed as, just something less, that is really difficult to feel like you're in the same boat and rowing together with everyone else. Yeah, I can't even, I've been fortunate. So.
Yeah, and I've worked with districts, and I think maybe some of yours, where even being on a master contract, it seems like ECFE is easy to move, right? Is easy to, the school needs that space that you've been in. So we're going to move you over to these portables, or we're going to move you over here. And you can do that in 2 days before the school district starts, right? That's not a problem, right? Yeah. So anyway. So what is your backup plan if you don't have a parenting educator that is available? Is that right, Katie? Was that your question?
Yes, I'm kind of looking ahead as we're in, cold and flu season. If I can't be here, I don't have anyone that's really like my coordinator. I don't think that's her. I don't think she's comfortable to just kind of take the class. So I would have to either have them just do along, the whole time they can just stay with their kids, or I'm not sure about letting the parents kind of be together without someone to kind of facilitate. I don't want to turn it into kind of a free for all, like, let's just talk about whatever kind of thing. So was just curious about what people do when there maybe isn't a sub available per se for you.
I don't have a team of other parent educators to lean on in this regard. It's me or the other, there's one that has her license, but she's teaching second grade. So she's not available during the daytime, but sometimes we swap for each other at night. But during the daytime, we have tried very hard to get a substitute to come in. I mean, I'm lucky our community ed director and our building principal really try to make that a priority, even if it's only just for a few hours, because they can usually use them someplace else in the building. We're so short of subs right now. To assign somebody to cover my class is a priority. I'm lucky. And what is that new curriculum that we're all kind of trying? Has a couple of really great lesson plans.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
There it is. Connecting to Learn has a couple of great sub plans in it. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at that, there's somebody here who helped develop it. Thank you, because someday I won't be able to do this either, and that curriculum will help whoever's working on their license. Anyway, the other thing we do is we push really hard to, if I can't be there and they can't get a sub, can we please have divide that gym in half and give us the other half of the gym? And the parents and the kids love having that extra motor time. We don't have it has to be the elementary school gym. Our new space is supposed to have a large motor room. And so that might be more available to us. And sometimes the PE teachers and the principal have moved heaven and earth to get us that what's usually talk time in the gym so that they can do some motor stuff. Or outside if the weather's conducive to that.
Good idea.
Katie, go ahead.
Sorry, I can't see. I was just going to make sure that Becca, you chime in about what happened when you didn't have a parent educator. I think that's really valuable information.
Thank you for outing me, Ellen. So I had a family emergency come up and very, very suddenly couldn't be there. There was definitely no way to get a sub if we had subs, which we don't. So I just quick ran by the school and left I didn't leave my exact lesson plan, but I put like the discussion questions on the board and just kind of left my handout and the discussion questions. I was like, we'll follow up on this next week. Here's your folders. Like before the parents arrived, it was just all out. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Like it was, you learn through mistakes, right? That was for me. A new parent in the group had only been there a few times, kind of abrasive, very opinionated and loud, kind of took over while I wasn't there and was kind of triggery for a bunch of people in the group. And it was a topic that definitely needed facilitation. I didn't even have time to think about it. I just was like, here's my stuff. So there's something for them to talk about. But it was about feeding kids, eating and stuff. And that's really hard for a lot of people. And so it didn't go very well. And I am so blessed to have had a parent who felt comfortable enough to share that with me. So I knew, and then I was prepared to how do I handle this going forward afterwards? How do I bring this back and have people feel safe here? And that's the most important thing. So I learned that you don't, especially if it's a more challenging topic, you definitely don't just leave it for parents to do on their own. There's a reason we're there. In a way that made me feel good. It's like, oh, they really do need me because it didn't go well at all when I was done. And so my coworker and I, there's two of us in our district who are parent eds, but we're usually at the opposite sites, so we never see each other, are both gonna work together, I think, on developing some sub plans that also potentially could be used without a facilitator there as very, very shallow, like icebreakers and a game. And it's like, if parents are desperate to get a little bit of away time from their kids, it's like they've been looking forward to this all week, they're touched out, they just need that 45 minutes or whatever, a chance for them to still have that grown-up me time, not trying to get deep into any kind of content. So I haven't created those backup plans, but That's our intent. Because the truth is, especially after the conversations we had here when I shared my big flub up, was that even if we had a sub, that wouldn't be a kind topic to leave a sub who didn't know my group, right? So I would also want to leave a sub the less deep content, more fun and connecting, icebreakery games type level of parent ed time. So that's what I need to work on, but haven't done yet.
I might have shared this before, but I have a Jenga game that I just put a question on each of the Jenga pieces, and groups have had fun playing with that. So it's like a, just a question about themselves that they can share for each piece that gets pulled out.
And
Yeah, and I just want to chime in really quick. I can't see who's like talking or anything, but sorry guys. But I just think it's really important that when we are gone, content is less important than relationships. And if we're going to be gone and we don't think that the group can handle it, or we think something will happen, or there'll be someone domineering, that doing something like Becca said, shallow, simple, sweet, something that connects families is way more important than a missed conversation about potty training or whatever. After that, Becca, I'm like, whoa, no way am I ever going to leave a lesson plan, because you just don't know who's going to be there. And you don't know if your usual group is a bunch of moms, and it's always moms, and then one day a dad comes and he's never been there before, and you're not there to like set the boundaries and set the parameters and welcome him. And yeah, it's just, I will never leave a lesson plan never. Nope. So relationships are more important than content. That's my take on absences.
And to add to that, I wonder if, these lesson plans that we're devising, or whether you look at the ones that are in that news spiral, that if you give the suggestion that they talk about these things in small groups, or, with the person next to them, then it kind of doesn't let one person derail the whole group, maybe.
Yeah. But if you do that, like everyone knows, I have a very, very, very difficult parent right now. And if the lesson plan was to say, get in small groups, nobody wants to be his partner. And I mean, nobody. And I'm not going to put like one of my brand new parents whose English is not her first language, I'm not going to put her with him. And if I'm not there to protect her, that's the thing. I am so much more protective of their relationships with each other. I mean, if you have a group and they'd be great, that's awesome. But I have a group and I just know that could just explode in my face. Absolutely. So again, we have to know our groups, and that's the biggest piece, for sure.
I agree with you 100%.
So I want to go to Greta. Am I mistaken that you were trying to add something before or not?
Yeah, it's okay. No, I was. I didn't know if you were looking, Katie, for something that's like the quick turnaround, like the sudden I'm absent, or something where you can plan ahead, because then if it's something planned ahead, then sometimes I've taken time with the person who's going to sub in and walked through a lesson or something, and depending again on the skills of the person. But just yesterday I had a retiree, a teacher who's retired, and she taught for 32 years in the district in second and first grade, come in and just kind of observe a class, so that in the future maybe she can come in and see it. And I showed her where things were, and I can show her. So if you have time to prep somebody, there's that possibility sometimes too. Now, this connects back to our last conversation. She didn't know our hallway. She's like, what is in this hallway? I said, early childhood preschool classes and ECFE. And what is that, the same thing, or is that different things? I'm like, oh my gosh. So even though we're a pretty healthy program here in our district, people who've been here for 32 years who work just across in the adjoining building. I mean, we connect through cafeterias. Still don't know. And so that was just to harken back to our previous conversation, Susan. And but bringing it back around, for subs. I wouldn't have ever thought of necessarily getting in contact, but my supervisor saw that she was on the sub list and saw she was an elementary teacher who had retired, recognized her name, and inquired, would you be interested in coming over and finding out about us? So I don't know, that might be something if you can plan ahead, that might, yeah.
Thank you for those great ideas. Yeah. I won't, it just won't ever be an option to have an actual sub. My coordinator is, I love her and she's wonderful, but facilitating parent groups is something that she has said she's not comfortable doing. So, and we're a small district, we don't have subs. So, yeah, I know the parents need that time and they love that time, but I'm a little nervous about letting them just kind of, even if it's just a really simple, basic topic, I just don't want the conversation to get off the rails. So I think it's just something I have to kind of give some thought to. And I love the gym time idea or going outside, you know, something they can do with the parents, but it's a different thing that we don't do. But yeah, definitely. Thank you for all those great ideas. I appreciate it.
Katie, might that dovetail with your question about having speakers? Like for just that, I know that's really hard because most speakers, you know, will want a plan, like what date do you need me and that kind of thing, but not having somebody come in is oftentimes not planned, but yeah, just as an option. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Good. Well, we are out of time. And it looks like so my quick question, and I think I can address this to Ellen for Yuji, is there something on siblings in the lesson plans and the that you know of? Okay, all right. Usually Ellen will hook you up or she won't. But she'll see if there's any resources on parenting siblings. But if you can come back next week, we can make that. And then also, Nancy, I hope you can join us again next week.
Me too.
Great. Yeah, please do. And Katie, like everybody is always welcome. Bring your friends. You know, I don't think Zoom gives us a limit and all of that. Yeah, we can talk about like the must-haves when you're remodeling.
Oh, that's okay. I've had to submit that list, but what is the summer retreat?
Oh, Nancy.
I must be working out in the hinterlands.
No. So last year, for the very first time, we had been meeting like this as a group for long enough. And since we were sort of post-COVID-ish, we met a group of us. How many were there? About 13 or so, met at a lovely little farm in Prairie Oaks, which is near Chaska. And I think it worked out really well. I mean, for the location, and it's super cheap and it's a lovely little farm and there's 2 houses and stuff like that. Anyway, so, and we were just there from Friday to Saturday. So it was one night. And then we kind of booked it pretty quickly on Saturday because it was a day there were big storms coming in the area. So we sort of gave the whole group a bum's rush to get out of there due to the thing. But we had a wonderful time and about half the people who were on this call were there. And so I just, throw it out there so that we can begin discussion because I'm confident you guys would like to do it again next summer, right?
Sign me up.
Yeah. And but we'll just start planning and, and if we want to go back or whatever, but, dates, what works best, we want to do it later in August, whatever. So, yeah, so it was cheap. I don't think anybody paid more than about $40 or 50, 60, something like that. Yeah, pretty cheap. Lovely, very quiet. We just had a great time sitting around, and honestly, we sat in a circle and did introductions, and that was the afternoon. So So, no speakers, no lectures, just doing what we're doing on Zoom, only we're sitting in lawn chairs and watch horses and chickens and eating, a lot of eating. And then we had a campfire at night and and it was lovely. It really was. So yeah, Belle Plaine. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, Belle Plaine. Yeah, so so thank you, everybody. I hope you have just a fabulous week. I hope the roads are clear and there's no ice and any of that winter nastiness. And remember, there is the Perfect Connections listserv, and yeah, I know everything, Nancy. So if you would put your email address and Katie, I have yours. I'll just add you to the listserv, and don't worry, you won't get hounded. I only send it out if there's like a job announcement or something like that. Oh, speaking of that though, not a job, but if you are interested in doing a workshop at Menafee, the Sunday, the 15th, is the date for proposals. So just an FYI on that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. You're all
Good to see everybody.
just amazing. We'll see you again next week.
A good week.